Awakening, the podcast where we explore transformative journeys of self discovery. I'm Christy.
And I'm Jen. Join us as we dive deep into the realms of consciousness, guided by remarkable guests who are experts in their field.
Now, today we have the privilege of hosting James Wilson, a human design expert and specialist with a unique journey of self realization. Welcome, James.
Hi, Christy. Hi, Jen. Thank you. Of
Hey, thanks for being here.
course.
So, James, can you take a moment to share with our audience your personal journey into the world of human design and spirituality, starting from your discovery of human design system back in 2012?
Certainly. How succinct and linear I could be with that process, I'm not so sure as far as when it actually started. And I really appreciate the topic, as we were discussing beforehand, about the themes of awakening. And that's kind of how I came to spirituality, so to speak, or awakened out of almost every paradigm that I could get my hands on. But to start from the inception point, I'd say 2012, so 11 years ago, I didn't have really a metaphysical leaning whatsoever, other than I wanted to be more mindful and learn how to meditate. But for the most part, it wasn't part of my day-to-day life. And so I wanted to learn meditation. So in 2012, I learned transcendental meditation. I eventually became a teacher of that practice. And I would say 11 years ago is when I started intensely on the spiritual seeking path to find myself in the traditional sense. Right around that time, when I was completely down the rabbit hole, I was open and receptive to any spiritual thing I could possibly find. Someone had mentioned human design to me as kind of, it was at a party or just kind of a casual conversation, and it resonated with me so deeply in a very off-putting kind of way, meaning that I found it very odd that there was somebody that I had just met and they seemed to know so much about me and about my path, and was telling, like, kind of dictating my life to me, how it had been, why I'm the way I am. So they almost seemed to have more self-awareness of me than I had of myself, and I was like, that was daunting to me. And so I put it off for a number of years and didn't really come back to it probably till 2014 or 15, after I had departed from the traditional path, or what I call the old paradigm of spirituality, which was more prescriptive and kind of dictative from gurus of, like, do this meditation very strictly, eat these types of foods, follow this path. And deep down, I was like, I've got my own path, but I had no guidance whatsoever for what my unique path was, of how it was going to unfold in my life. And fast forward to today, I just picked up human design as a real passion and reading charts. And for anybody in the audience that's projectors or knows about projectors, it kind of, yeah, which Christy is. It just, everything kind of flipped completely, in that I realized it's not so much about me anymore and trying to figure out myself. That was almost a lost cause, because I was like, there's no end to that question. It just seems like, what am I? Who am I? And more about my purpose, why I'm here to guide people. And so I just feel much more at ease and less angst as far as spiritual angst, so having to figure it out what I'm supposed to do. And so I've just been able to, the more I let go of any paradigm, of any system, even human design. Human design is I call it sticky. It's a sticky paradigm. Like, I try to let go of it and it still seems to follow me around, but I can relax a little bit more and just use it as a guidance method or a system, and then just speak a common language with people. So just been doing that pretty regularly for the last couple of years.
Yeah, beautiful. I really resonate with your story about being seen by a stranger. I remember the first human design reading I had was back in 2020, and I had never even heard of human design before. And the way that I received my reading was I filled in the details and they sent me a recording back, and I literally sat on the couch crying. 'Cause I was like, how is this person just explained my entire life and
Yeah.
how the world responds to me and why the world isn't responding to me? Because I was showing up really as a generator, like manifesting generator, like getting in
Yeah.
and responding, even, you know, initiating it, like probably really more initiating, and it just wasn't working. And it wasn't until I recognized I needed to wait for the invitation, which was another journey for me, because, you know, a lot of us projectors, when we realize this, think, well, we just need to sit and wait, which also is not the case.
Right.
And that's when I found TikTok and just showed up in my magic there. I didn't even ask for business, and people were like trying to throw, like, it was just like, here, take my money, like, teach me, right? And I was like, what is going on here? And then that's when I realized that the human design was, it's not about using it as an excuse, it's about grabbing it and seeing it as almost like our operating system and using it to our advantage. Because to me, it was more about how, I suppose, yeah, the world responded to me and how I should react or respond to the world. And that helped me get more in flow. But the whole feeling seen for the first time, I was just like, oh my God, I have to watch this again.
Yeah.
And I watched it over and over, and I was like, this just makes so much sense.
Same thing, because you're used to going through life in a lot of ways, kind of feel like you're not being seen, or nobody sees me for who I really am, type of thing. And then when somebody does, it's like, oh, I thought I was hiding.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I know for me, I watch these manifesting generators like Jan, like I'm surrounded by many gens, right? And it's like they look at something for 5 minutes and they stand up and go, hey, I know this thing. And everyone's like, here, take my money. Like when we're talking business. And then I could have studied for 50 years. And they're like, who the fuck are you? To be, you know, because of the way that we need to respond to the energy. And, you know, that was kind of my biggest awakening. And I really am ready to get stuck into the depths of human design, because it's not just about the profiles and the authority and the type, is it? Like, it's so much deeper than that.
I call it the whole enchilada.
I love that. The whole enchilada.
The whole thing, or whole beingness, maybe an awakened perspective, whole being nature. Because it can be easy to learn it intellectually, of get really stuck in one aspect of it. Like, it's all about my profile, or it's all about my type. And it's like, yes, and, or both and. It's both of those things and everything else.
Yeah.
Very
beautiful.
Keen observation, though, about how truly individualized it can be. That you can't, if you were speaking to someone who's a manifesting generator compared to a projector, and I find this kind of why I've come to the particular work that I do, of if you give any kind of generic advice for people, it's like it can really land for somebody, and it's like it lights up sacral types, and they're like, that totally works, thank you very much, and they're just completely successful with it. And then you give that same advice to a projector, and they're like, what's wrong? This isn't working.
It's not working for me.
Yeah. Before I forget, if I don't say it, I always like to give the message to projectors that it's much more about recognition.
Yeah.
Recognition as opposed to a formal invite, because that takes people a long time.
Yeah. And would you say that first you need to recognize yourself before anyone else can recognize you as a projector?
It certainly helps, but I don't know if it's necessary initially.
Yeah. Beautiful.
It's more enjoyable and internally rewarding and internally validating when you recognize yourself first.
Yeah.
But depending on where people are at, because everyone's at different stages, sometimes I would say even in my own path, it's like I almost required, or was looking for people to recognize me in order to offer some guidance and support, in order to be able to recognize myself in the way that I needed to.
Okay. Yeah, beautiful. So you mentioned before, like, I think you said you're an emotional authority. So the authority that we have, like when people are looking at their basic overall design, the emotional authority or the authority itself, is that how we make decisions?
Your authority?
Yeah. Is that what that
Yes.
is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your onboard internal decision-making process of your own authority. So yeah, there's 7 different types.
Yeah.
And I am emotional authority, and you said yours is self-projected. But yes, that is, if there was one thing that was the most practical out of human design, that's what I enjoy sharing about it too, is that it's not just abstract.
Yeah.
Astrology is great, but it's kind of like, now what? What do I do?
Yeah.
Information. So it's really complementary to astrology, is knowing those things about yourself and potentially the future. How do you make the correct decisions? Because life, in the most mundane sense, is just a series of very making the correct, responsible decision.
So with when people like go on to, I think it's like My Body Graph or whatever it is, you get your basic design, but then there's like these lines and these gates, and then there's like the numbers down the side. Like it's good to know the basics, like the top level stuff, but you like to dig really deep into what's underneath, right? That's your jam.
Yeah, yes, it definitely is. That's where I like to go, is like what's underneath that, what's really going on here. But that said, having a real good grasp of the fundamentals is important. So I meet people where they're at.
Yeah,
because sometimes if you blow right past the basics and get right into the real the depths of it, people are like, what are you talking about? But yes,
yeah,
to your point,
yeah.
I like the leading edge of it. Like where has human design and the paradigm not gone yet? What is still yet to be discovered? Everything else, it's like, go learn it on YouTube.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. So, as a business owner and a creator, and a teacher and a guide, what would you say would be important to look at if you're really wanting to sort of understand how to show up in your business, whether you're in the right, I suppose, even area of work, how to, how you get clients, who you should be working with? What should one do? Where should they look?
At the very top of the chart, so you mentioned all the gates and the planets go along the sides. So there's your body graph that's in the middle.
Yeah.
It's got all the 9 centers, and it's got all the numbers and the lines and the colors and everything.
Yeah.
But the top 2 gates, which are your sun signs. So you have your unconscious sun signs, which relate to your life purpose. And then you integrate that with your conscious sun sign, which is I refer to that as your soul purpose. It's not always referred to that way in human design per se, but that's just my interpretation of it. And because that ultimately seems to be, as far as I can tell, what is, if there's a point to life and to be incarnated in the first place, it's those 2 principles and how to integrate them and rectify them together. And that's where I see, in terms of being here as a energetic guide, as a projector, when I kind of looking at, like, not trying to change people's lives, but just how to gently guide them to where they want to go already, as opposed to where they should go. But where they seem to want to go is the intersection and the integration of fulfilling on a deep level both what they're here to do in their life, and kind of the mundane meet the biological demands of life, of I got to pay the bills and be in a relationship and do all of these things that are kind of worldly. And you can see people get solely fixated on their life path, and they get stuck and trapped in materialism. So they're not satisfied. They might look successful on the outside. Guilty of that in my life. So I had to course correct myself, and that's kind of why I got thrust into spiritual seeking and awakening, because then there's the course correction to, if you're just fixated on materialism, you get your soul soul crushing. You're not really living out your soul purpose and what your soul is here to do in the broader sense of your evolution, if there is life past this life. jury's still out on that. I'm not sure, but maybe. And so, but then you can also be too far on the soul side too, and you see people who are, no offense to them, everyone's where they're at and all that. I've been there too, and that's kind of, I went too far on the other side, where I was just like, meditative and wanted to live in an ashram and just renounce materialism and everything in my life. I'm like, this doesn't matter. I don't need this.
Yeah.
And then people get too spiritual, and it's kind of obnoxious.
Yes.
People are too spiritual.
It
I'm like,
needs to be balanced, right? There's two ends of the spectrum, and we need to find. And usually we go from here to here, and we're just going to find our way back to that.
Right. And there's this term that I come across recently that fascinates me. It's borrowed from visual optics. It's vergence. It sounds like virgins, but it's vergence, and it's like when two energetic frequencies come together in such a way where they're like vergence. It's like they're right on the, as opposed to converging and everything collapses, or diverging, and then kind of scattered and lost. So I think people want to be like right on the edge of their evolution in terms of they feel like they're equally fulfilling their life purpose and their soul purpose simultaneously, and that shows up in your chart and your sun signs.
Beautiful. So you mentioned that it's important. So it's important for entrepreneurs to integrate their life and soul purpose in a meaningful business, right? Could you elaborate on how the human design plays a role in the process of, and I suppose why it's crucial for entrepreneurs?
Well, I mean, it's not for everybody per se, so I don't know if it's crucial for all entrepreneurs, but to your point, why can it be crucial or essential? Because it can be so easy on a day-to-day basis to lose yourself or compromise yourself for this, that, and the other reason, like you name it. From what I just referred to as like traditional or generic business coaching. Here's a script. Here's a template. Here's how to do a sales call. Here's how to do all of these things. And before you know it, it's like the camouflaged old traditional guru paradigm, where it's like it's being dictated to you of how you're supposed to do things. And it's easy to fall into that trap because it could be really effective. So it's always like choosing, do I do the effective thing? It's going to be this quick, easy fix to get my business off the ground and going. And then eventually, so it's crucial probably for just energy conservation and sustainability. Just do it on your own terms and not lose yourself. So it's always just getting a human design reading or studying it on your own. It's just always a check-in with yourself. Like, am I honoring myself? Am I honoring my own authority? Am I making the decisions that are correct for me, as opposed to going along with somebody else's agenda?
Yeah, beautiful. I like that. So you've had a diverse career from military intelligence to Silicon Valley tech startups. How have you experienced, how have these experiences contributed to your approach as a human design specialist and into, I suppose, guiding individuals through their journeys?
My past experiences, both in life and professionally, allow me to speak from life experience and with humility. And I'm not just speaking the gospel of human design. I've had that done to me, and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Because it can be used in such a way where it's like someone's giving you like the knowledge per se of the human design system, but they're not integrated themselves. And so I feel like it's been absolutely essential and for me to be able to have like walked the path of life in a way where I can speak from experience. How does it shape that? Because anytime it comes up of like, am I honest with myself? Like, am I living in accordance with my own human design? That just does it justice, because I can't even keep track of my own whatever I've done in my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, military. I was a meteorologist for a while. That one is, I have awakened out of that, so to speak, recently, of that was me trying to not live my own life.
Yeah.
This gets into the depths of the, so incarnation cross, like if you really want to get to down to the essence of human design, it's like you can look past a lot of things to your incarnation cross.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Oh,
kind of,
I have the cross of the unexpected. I think that's what I have.
I do too. Okay,
Oh,
so
really? We
yeah,
got a lot of similarities here.
there's 192 different variations, so having the same
Wow.
one. Okay, cool. You'll understand this. I wanted my life when I decided, like, I want my profession to be in meteorology, which I resonate with me because I could detect patterns in the
Yes.
atmosphere and trends, and being able to look into the future and almost like,
Yeah.
well, I felt like it felt kind of, there was a part of it that felt clairvoyant, of like being able to see the future, even though it was very
Yes.
just based on scientific algorithms and
Yes.
models and everything. But it's like some part of me knew that my life was going to be completely unpredictable and unexpected. So I
Yeah.
had to brace myself. Like, I need to know what's going to happen in my life.
Yeah.
And so where I'd say it all kind of collapsed for me. And then I realized that wasn't what I was meant to do. I was meant to embrace the unexpected and just to not know what's going to happen. And
Yeah.
so that's how I embody my incarnation cross, is like, I kind of hate not knowing what's going to happen, but that's one of the things I'm here to learn, is like, whatever I think is going to happen, it's probably going to be way different. So
Yeah.
I go
Yeah.
into the unknown all the time. And then you're also a 1-3 as well. And that's
Yeah.
just the type of person that's insatiably curious, that has to do lots of things by experience. So
Yeah.
I
I
just
just
got a
jump.
lot
I never
of it.
understood how people just don't go do the thing. I'm like, just go do the thing. Like, you learn if you make a mistake. Like, it's just, I get it now.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually my design, and I understand why I've always
Right.
felt
Like
the
you
waste of.
don't perceive it as a mistake.
No,
So other
it's feedback.
might,
It's like, okay, let's just
yeah,
reassess what didn't work there. Okay, let's rehash this and let's take another jump. See if that works better.
I get it.
Yeah, totally. And the patterns, it's the first time I've heard that. I actually, my husband always says, how do you know this stuff? I'm like, I don't know. I can just see patterns in things. And it's almost like it becomes predictable. And I've never
Yeah.
been able to explain that. Is that part of that cross of the unexpected? Or it's
Um,
just part of a pattern?
I don't know. Sometimes I can't see outside of my own pattern. Like, it's
Yeah,
easy
okay.
to extrapolate that and project it onto other people. Like, everybody
Yeah.
sees things. Like, doesn't everyone else see the patterns? But then
Yeah.
that's where I'm
No.
all troubled by when I speak to other people and I hear their experience, and they can't believe that I don't perceive life the way that they do. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why would I
Yeah.
perceive life?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Interesting. It's
yeah,
fascinating.
it is unusual. The less I try to predict things, almost like the more I let go of it, the more I'm like, oh, I kind of see where this is headed.
Yeah. Yeah. I've learned to surrender to I used to get frustrated with the unexpected, and I've learned to just surrender and trust that whatever that is, and it comes down to letting go of control for me. And now I just trust whatever happens is meant to happen. And again, it's just feedback if it's not what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So, can you tell us more about the Human Design Entrepreneur's 90-day self-exploration roadmap? What can participants expect? So, this is your 90-day program, this 3-month program for entrepreneurs. What can people expect in this program, and how does it help them align with their life and their business?
Right. So the reason or the purpose behind why I designed it this way, to be solely tailored to people's human design charts, is to answer and address what I continue to saw as a problem of, like I said before, about generic coaching, that people get kind of a prescripted way to, this is how you build your business, when there's like 1,000,001 different ways that it could be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so what people can expect from me is the unexpected in a lot of ways, other than I have created a systematic system to guide people through if they're looking for a standard linear process to go through. So it's by design has a linear path to it, of each phase to meet people where they're at. From maybe you just have an idea that's kind of simmering of which, after doing lots of readings, I've just kind of found, whether people know it or not, they have some entrepreneurial spirit that wants to come alive and do their own thing. And that's the era that we're moving into, is to be more entrepreneurial anyway. Or somebody who's very seasoned in entrepreneurship who just kind of wants to skip ahead, or perhaps they're like a manifesting generator like Jen, and they like to just skip ahead and find shortcuts and be like, yeah. Well, how do I get to the end here? So you can kind of skip ahead to the roadmap. A roadmap meaning you navigate it, and I'll kind of guide you where you want to go. If you're just starting out, if you're kind of in the middle, you're working on your messaging, you're putting an offer together, you're not sure how much to charge, you should probably charge more than you think and not give stuff too much. A lot of us do sometimes. Or, you've been doing a business for quite a while, but you're looking to scale, to do things more efficiently. That's kind of where I love to work, is like, how can this be simplified to the easiest possible level? Because the more you scale, the more complex it gets, and actually the more challenging you get, the more you scale. But the essence of it being, the whole tone is set from an initial 90-minute in-depth human design reading, where it's I use the term mutuality a lot, where I'm guiding, but kind of based off of their own intuition, their own internal guidance, their life and soul purpose. If they're working on their copywriting, their messaging, rather than me just kind of going, here's some things that you could write about. You take certain parts of their chart, perhaps their Mercury gates, of like, this is actually what you uniquely might be here to communicate and share.
Beautiful. I love that. And I think we're just having some technical issues with Jen, so she's been dropping in and out. We're getting a lot of feedback at her end, so we'll just continue. So I want to talk about, like, awakening is a central part of this, like the central theme in your work. Can you share some insights or tips to our listeners who might be going through their own spiritual awakening and seeking guidance? What would be some insight or tips for them?
Well, if you're going through your own awakening process, know that it's meant to happen this way, and it's not wrong, meaning that it can be uncomfortable at first, because it's awakening to yourself, perhaps in a way that's new to you, that defies any kind of shoulds or what you were supposed to do in the past. So it can actually be very difficult, very uncomfortable to let go a lot of the old ways. So my best possible advice is, don't listen to anybody for the most part, because there's a lot of bad advice out there. There's certainly people that are there who are willing to support you, so being open to that support. But a lot of times it's so different for everyone, so I can't really speak in generalities. But just so I've come across this mechanic of green lighting. I really like to bring into my work as much as possible, because at a certain point, human design can only get people so far, where it doesn't really address, I think, some of the real challenges and discomforts of an actual spiritual awakening. Because if you're going through it and it's really difficult, you can't just be like, well, just follow your strategy and your authority. It's like, it doesn't work. So green lighting it's making it okay, not trying to fix it. That took me a long time. It's uncomfortable. I've got to fix this, or I've got to change it. Or especially the big one in the spiritual community is insistently trying to heal it.
Oh yes, getting stuck in the healing process. Going looking for stuff. Yeah,
you go looking for something that's wrong, and you'll find it, or something that's broken, or something needs to be healed, because that's endless.
Yeah, it is.
That said, use your discretion. Discretion is probably the biggest blanket statement. Discretion, discernment. Some things certainly can be healed and warrant healing modalities. You seek out specific healers. I wouldn't say human design is particularly healing. The people that you meet, usually it's the people that you meet. It's all about finding the right people and being open to the right support, and it coming to you in time, and trusting it. And
yeah. I think you're so right on that. I do, because I work with a lot of people around spiritual awakening, and and I give them tools to help heal. And I went through this journey too myself. Like when when you're in the crux of it all, when you're down in that hollow and you're in the darkness of it, it's like, oh, I just have to keep finding stuff to fix, right? Rather than, it's like you can just keep finding, and you're just gonna, like, you'll forever be in that hole trying to find and find and find. And when we're doing that, we're so stuck in really the past. One, we're not being present, we're not living for the future. And I think for me, human design, I suppose, probably the biggest thing for me with human design, when because I went through a dark night of the soul again, like quite recently, and I transitioned quite quickly. Like, it was probably the darkest dark night I've ever had, but because I just allowed myself to feel it, I moved through it quite quickly. But in saying that, I think with my human design, the one thing I pulled on the most was actually my authority. Like that decision-making process, and starting to trust my decisions again, but using the way that I make my decisions correctly, if that makes any sort of sense. And for me, that's talking it like it's talking, and hearing it, because when it's in my brain, like as a self-projector, it doesn't always make sense, but when I speak it out, it's like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So not allowing myself to be stuck in those thoughts, if that makes sense.
You've touched on, I'd say, actually probably one of the healing modalities, now that I think about it, of human design in a practical setting, of soundboarding, especially for projectors, because it's energies from the motors, from the lower centers and lower chakras, and it needs to come up and out through speaking. And if you're not speaking it out, it does just get stuck in your mind. And it's good to normalize the dark night of the soul, because I've been through a few. And that's part of the things that's probably therapeutic as well, as speaking about it, kind of normalizing. It's like, it doesn't go through that, and it's kind of hard to,
I think, and this is the thing, not getting stuck and looking for the thing. I just let myself sit in my shit and my emotions for 3 months or whatever it was, and then I did the work. I didn't want to use the work to go in and sort of bypass what I really needed to work on. But when I brought those tools in, I transitioned out quite quickly. So it's a really good point to touch on. Could you provide us with some examples before we wrap up today, maybe of an individual whose life that's worked with you has been transformed using their human design chart to create a business that resonates with their true, authentic selves?
I could. A focal point of the work that I do a lot of times is confidentiality, to be honest with you. And so I'm always hesitant. I might get into it as I start speaking, but speaking about people specifically and the transformational journey they've gone through, I usually ask them beforehand, like, if it's okay if I can speak about them on platforms on social media or something. So there are certainly people I've worked with that are very near and dear and close to my heart, that it's meant the world to me to be able to guide them in the process of growing their business. An example, I don't have a specific example at the moment.
That's all right. So, when people come to you and they do this program, are they coming to you, like people that come into you, do they already have businesses? Are they maybe successful? Are they off path, off track, confused as to maybe not feeling like what they're doing is really resonating with their audience or themselves?
All the above. So I'm certainly willing to meet with anyone and kind of do an assessment beforehand for both of us to get an idea of, like, well, where are you at currently in your life and business. So yes, I'd say on the far end of people who they just barely are in the ether for them, that they are looking to be more entrepreneurial and start a job. It is easier as far as what I offer, if it's already kind of has some legs to it and a bit of a foundation, we can work on that, because 3 months is a long time, but it takes a while to actually get some
Mm.
traction on a business. So I can help people with the initial foundations, but a lot of times, if I feel that they could use some more initial work beforehand, I have some resources I could offer, some user guides, some workbooks, things they can kind of do on their own that might prepare them more to work together. And then, sure, if people, it's always, I am up for the challenge if people are well off in their business and they've been doing it for a number of years and can just work on the sustainability and scaling aspect of it.
Yeah, beautiful. Do you ever any, like, oh, let me just speak English here. Do you ever have anyone that comes into your program and has the realization, no wonder I'm not really feeling fulfilled because they're not living their purpose out, and sort of shift and change the direction of their business or their offerings?
It's happened for sure. I feel like that's why I've designed this course to be infinitely flexible and people can pivot, because there are times where, and I've done this myself, of I got this great idea, but it wasn't necessarily it wasn't coming from me. It was coming from what I thought was going to work.
Yeah.
So I see that a lot. People do what they think is practical and what they think is going to work and what people are going to be receptive to, and then haven't really had a moment to, there's certainly lots of ways to make contact with that in yourself, but I've just found that in a human design reading, it can kind of really set up the initial conditions for people to speak out in a very lively, dynamic sense, like what's truthful for them in that moment. Even they're really honest, like a really good, honest conversation can be one of the most healing things of all, where they kind of come to terms with it, like, that's not what I want to do. And I go, great, let's do something else.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. So if someone wanted to work with you, how would they get in contact with you?
Best way is joining Human Design Entrepreneurs Facebook community /group. And the address for that is humandesignroadmap.com. And then click the button and to join the community, and you'll get the membership questions in the group. And then you'll have an option to get in touch with me directly. If you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. I won't take it personally, but you can still be a part of the human design community and connect. I've also wanted to make it not all about me per se, and to kind of bring together in a collaborative sense people who are using their human design to build their business. So you can just join the community and meet people that way.
Yeah, beautiful. Jen has lost her audio, but she has popped the links below. So on socials, that'll be in the comments, and on the podcast, that'll be below in the description. Before we wrap up today, James, do you have any messages or advice you'd like to leave our audience who are on their spiritual awakening?
No.
Just do it, right? Just do the thing.
Just do it. Yes. Okay. Now that you say that, the only thing when I sift through all of my unsolicited projector advice, meaning I have so much advice that I don't give it because I know that it falls on deaf ears. So it's like, no, I don't have it. People are going to do whatever they want to do anyways. But without the full context, because it would take me forever. Long story short, if people are, in as general as I can make it, people in general, as far as patterns, whatever you think your purpose is or why you're doing something, because that's a big cliche thing. I think in the coaching industry is like, define your why, define your big why. And I don't know about you, but I find that like really annoying because it's always changing. And so I feel like it just can set people up for disappointment if you're doing it for a specific reason. And it can be the most well-intentioned reason on the planet. But if something happens and then that reason isn't there anymore, then everything that you worked for is just kind of collapses. And so that it's like, whatever. But ultimately, if you're doing things just to do it, and I feel like that's the essence of human design, is it's just an experiment. It's just an experience. It's just to have the experience. and it can completely collapse the world of duality, whether it's good or bad. And if something horrible happens and you're like, well, that's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
It removes the barrier of suffering of like, oh, it should have been different. And something horrific can happen and you can go, that's what I wanted to happen.
Yeah. I love that. Beautiful.
Just to do it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Elevate Your Spiritual Awakening. Your wisdom and insights have been really inspiring. I love the conversation of human design, and we haven't even really touched the surface. It's such a big topic.
It is. Well, it was an honor to be here, and thank you, Christy and Jen, both for having me, and I'd be happy to chat again sometime.
I would love that. I would love that. We can get deeper into design and all the things. So also, I just want to say thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of Elevate Your Spiritual Awakening. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review. Your support helps us continue bringing you inspiring conversations just like this one. Now, remember to visit James's website for valuable resources, and that link again is humandesignroadmap.com. Stay connected with us for more transformative conversations. Stay tuned, stay enlightened, stay empowered. Big love. Signing out for today.